on Saturday night in Lubbock. Tim Fitzgerald joins us. GoPowerCat.com joins us on 365 Sports. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you with Paul Craig and David Smoak. So is the quarterback room a mess, or is this going to kind of maybe calm as the week goes?
Well, after just hearing Chris Klieman talk, I'll be honest, maybe it's gamesmanship, but I'm going to be surprised if Adrian Martinez is good to go. He might be available, but I think they need to get him healed up. Now, keep in mind, this was an injury he suffered at Iowa State. We noticed when he came into the postgame at Iowa State, he was walking with a stiff right knee. He wasn't bending that. He was straight-legged, and I saw him leave the stadium on Saturday with a similar kind of hobble. So he's got a knee issue. It's not structural. I'm guessing it's a bruised kneecap, so the kneecap isn't tracking, so it locks up on him. And they had 2 weeks to get him healthy. He was healthy. On the first play of the game, he bangs it again, and out he goes. I think he's going to need more time. I think he'd be available if something goes wrong with Will Howard. But if I'm Oklahoma State, I'd expect to see Will Howard. But I think Coach Gundy's exactly right. He's going to prepare for either one of them because he could see either one.
So Will Howard is okay, or will he be a little bit limited because he got banged up the other day too?
Yeah. We think it's a left shoulder from, kind of getting a full weight landing on him when he ran the ball. And I think he was fine. He came back in, of course, at TCU, was braced up. But I think he'll be good to go. I mean, I'm sure that shoulder still hurts, but at least it's not his throwing arm.
So, Tim, that was a tough watch, I would imagine, for all the Wildcats fans out there. I mean, getting off to a good start and then just quarterback, injury after quarterback injury. Gosh, what were just kind of your thoughts, your prevailing thoughts coming out of that game and what this means not only in the present for Kansas State, but what also this could mean moving forward?
Well, my immediate thoughts were Will Howard played the best football he's ever played at Kansas State. That's the guy who didn't play a whole lot last year and honestly didn't look very good last year when he did come in. They've been determined to get a red shirt on him. That may not be possible if Adrian Martinez's injury lingers, but this was the first game he played in. We expected to hear that he'd been preparing for this game in practice because he looked so sharp, but no, he didn't take any more snaps than usual. Adrian Martinez was expected to be full go. And while we focus on quarterback, Deuce Vaughn only had 12 carries. That wasn't out of neglect. He too is banged up. See, like Dike Uzama, he's banged up and played. He comes out basically on anything second down or if it's short yardage, he goes back into pass rush. Daniel Green, all conference preseason linebacker, probably won't play. We're not sure the nature of his injury, but it might be concussion. You can go down the list, starting tight end Ben Sennett, injured an elbow. We don't know that he'll play. There were 7 or 8 significant injuries in that game. None of them season-ending, but Julius Brent, all-conference cornerback, pulled a hamstring, and we don't know what his situation is. So it wasn't just a number of injuries. It was who was injured. That K-State was just riddled with injuries by the end of the game, and yet they hung tough, and I think that's a positive sign because, man, I tell you what, the 3 linebackers they had to field at the end were second, and third string, and it shows.
We discussed Oklahoma State and their win against Texas quite a bit yesterday, and I also listened to Mike Gundy's post game and listened to Chris Klieman, and it seems like I try to do that more now than maybe before. Oklahoma State's got they got a battery of injuries. Gundy mentioned in his press conference they had 8 players covering a kickoff. I think it was in the second half who had never played a down in college football because of some of the depth that they had been hit because of some of the injuries they were dealing with as well.
It's incredible. I mean, and I'll just point out that both of these teams, we're talking about injuries coming out of games or TCU. They're incredibly physical. You can note that no starting quarterback has been healthy coming out of the game against TCU. And for K-State, that's the top 2 quarterbacks too. So they're really physical, and Oklahoma State's known for being physical. So, hopefully Kansas State can avoid more injuries because it's Texas the week after, and you better come and be ready for that. And then, oh, by the way, you got to go to Baylor. This conference is relentless.
Yeah, it is. When Howard came in and they produced the 28-10 lead, were you almost with jaw dropped when you saw that?
Yeah, I was. And I love Will Howard. He is a tremendous young man, but he has really struggled at times to play the way that they say he plays in practice. They've always been saying that Will Howard is really good in practice. And then he'd get into the game, and maybe it was just too many bright lights, too fast for him. But it finally looked like the game slowed down for him. He threw the ball so well. And his receivers competed for the ball. They put the ball in positions, in spots that they haven't with Adrian Martinez all year. It was a completely different passing game than what we've seen so far. I was intrigued by it. If Will can play at that level, consistently going forward, Kansas State's going to be a problem for people. But it also takes away in your run game when you don't have Adrian out there. Will can run the ball, but he's not Adrian Martinez. He doesn't give you that dynamic 1-2 punch with Deuce Vaughn that they have with him in the game. So that certainly detracts from the offense.
Maybe I zoned out and you already mentioned this. Was there any sort of a timetable on Adrian Martinez?
No. And, with this kind of injury, if it is what I think it is, it just has to heal up. And they thought they had him healed up. And, it's like when you have something injured, the first person that comes up to talk to you, pats you right on your shoulder or whatever it is. That's exactly what happened. He went down on the first play of the game and got tackled, and there went the knee. He tried to play through it and had a really bad errant pass on third down, and that was it. We thought he'd come back because the injury had been healed up pretty well, but boy, he couldn't go. He couldn't go at all.
It doesn't appear to be structural, but is it like a bone bruise?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
When that kneecap gets bruised, it gets swelling under it. The kneecap will track. It catches, it locks, it's irritating, it is painful. Like I said, I've done this injury back in days when I didn't sit in a recliner all day. Yeah, it's not a fun one. It isn't, it's not like it's persistent, ongoing, but boy, it sucks while it's healing up.
Well, Tim, I'm in my 40s now. I can do it sitting in the recliner. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. How much has Adrian Martinez's presence in a strange way maybe helped Will Howard? Because, look, there's nobody in the country who's been through it like Adrian Martinez has.
Yeah, you're right. And, this defines exactly what kind of kid Will Howard is. He thought he was going to be the starter this year. They went out and found Adrian Martinez to come in and be a one-and-done type guy. And we get him in post game. We asked about his relationship with Adrian Martinez. This man, I've learned so much from him. I just love the guy. He's always thinking team first. And in this day and age, that's hard to find from a quarterback. So many quarterbacks now, I'm not going to be the starter. See ya. And that's not Will Howard. And honestly, that isn't Max Duggan at TCU. And sometimes persistence will pay off. And he's handled everything really well. And I do think he's learned a lot from Adrian Martinez.
Tim, you just mentioned Duggan there, and you were talking about TCU's physicality. I guess those are a couple of takeaways from me, but having seen the Horned Frogs up close, I mean, they're in the driver's seat now. What were your impressions, and do you think they're built to maybe, keep going and run through this thing?
They're legit. They really are. They're good. I think after seeing them, they are the best team in the conference, only because when they hit their high gear, it's tough to match. The defense really didn't change anything schematically on K-State between the first and second half. They just amped it up. They just played harder. They did their jobs better, and that made it really hard. K-State was shut out after the second quarter. So it is a really good team, and it takes on Max Duggan's personality and persona. Because I tell you what, guys, K-State hit that guy a lot. In fact, got 2 personal foul penalties, and he played the whole game. And he kept chugging along. And when you got a quarterback that does that sets a big tone for the rest of the team.
Well, Duggan is tougher than nails. And then the running backs, DeMarcado and also Kendry Miller, I mean, you talk about, they're wiry, they're strong, they're tough.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, as you mentioned off the top, that's kind of the DNA of that team right now, and it's all.
They ran it well.
Yeah, the defense gives up some points and was giving up 28 early, but they always seem to kind of. The offense is so explosive, gets it back in. It's so wide open.
You have
Craig.
to kill them. You have to kill them if you have a chance.
I think so. I think
you
because of their big playability, and then that doesn't include even what they do with Darius Davis or Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver, that are also parts of that weaponry as well.
So, Tim, heading into this one, just what are your thoughts, I guess, on, obviously the quarterback position is the big wild card here for the Wildcats, but just your thoughts on what they're walking into this weekend against the Cowboys.
This is a team Chris Klieman hasn't beaten, and honestly, it's a team that Chris Klieman hasn't really competed with that much. And the same can be said for Baylor. They've been kind of outshined. I don't have the stat in front of me, but if Will Howard starts this game, this will be at least the fourth year, if not longer, that K-State has started a backup quarterback against Oklahoma State. That's how the schedule's fallen. They're always beaten up at that spot by the time they see the Pokes. This is a huge game, guys. K-State opened the season in conference play with 3 out of 4 on the road, all-night games in hostile environments, and won the first 2, and honestly had a chance to win that number 3. But as you said, Craig, you didn't get the knockout. You had the opportunity there at the end of the first half with another possession. They went 3 and out. TCU scored instead, and that changed the whole game. You got to put them away. So if K-State can be relatively healthy, being at home the next 2 weeks, I think will help the psyche of this team.
Tim, as always, buddy, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing great.
Doing great. Great to hear from you guys. I'll be down there in a few weeks, and I'm going to come take a tour.
I think it's a couple of, I hope so.
Right,
a couple of weeks into November, K-State,
Well,
Baylor's on the road
Yeah.
against Texas Tech and then Oklahoma.
We'll waive the fee that Garrett charges people just for you.
It's like a toll free, like a toll road.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that because I'll probably make a mess.
Thank you, buddy. Can't wait to see you. Tim
Thank you.
Fitzgerald, he covers Kansas State, GoPowerCat.com.
Yeah, they're in a rough way.